And welcome to the Goal Line Stand. I had to cut it short. Again, we got to get that narrowed down. Sam will be joining us tonight, so maybe I can air my grievances out with him to get that video shorted. As always, tonight it's me, Michael Washington, being your host for the Goal Line Stand. Deb is with me tonight. Justin is with me tonight. Chris scored last-second tickets to the Celtics game. He won't be with us, and Kenyon is engaged in some previous or prior engagements. And I believe Alex is as well. So it will just be a short 4-man panel tonight. So hopefully we can cover some stuff and not turn it into an 8-hour episode. Not that there's any problem with that. We all love talking football here. First, Deb, how are things going with you, man? Let's just start off with a quick introduction. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. You know, it's a blessing to be able to wake up every day. So yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Justin had a little trip up here to Maine this weekend. Didn't get to enjoy the foliage as much as you were hoping, I'm sure. But off to a good start up here, though. I mean, you enjoyed it up here while you were up this weekend?
Yeah. Maine reminded me of the North Georgia mountains in a way. I brought the weather back to Georgia with me, so we got to love the 55 degrees and cold, kind of rainy-ish weather. But loved my first ever time to Maine. Definitely got some food to work off this week with all the food from the seafood and all that food offerings y'all have up in Bangor.
A little bit past season for lobster, but did you get any lobster while you were up here or no?
I did.
Oh, nice.
I got some from Sea Dogs. So
okay.
That was a nice place.
Yeah, there you go. That's what's up. Rob, how you doing, brother? Thank you for joining us as always. Hit the subscribe and like button. The whole thing. Justin did it last week, and somebody you have a fan in the house. Look at this Facebook user.
Yeah, we got.
I don't know what it is.
Good old Stephen Foster. I got the little notification on my phone. So
all right.
Nice seeing you again, Steve. And hey, you can cover us in Carolina, maybe. I know you're a Billings and Gillette guy, but.
Yeah, Justin Arth is in the house every Tuesday night at this time, or right around this time. He is with us, or at least when he's not obviously engaged in something prior. And
straight from workouts too, so you get me very quickly after a shower.
Yeah, see, look at that. We get Justin at his absolute, what's the word I'm looking for? Exposed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, most exposed.
At his most exposed day. Big week this week. A lot of things kind of went down for here in the NFL. First and foremost, no longer any more undefeated teams. The 1972 Miami Dolphins are out there celebrating still, I'm sure, with whoever's left alive from that team is probably still drinking champagne or wine or whatever the hell it is that they party with. Assuming that their arthritis probably isn't flared up, but but I don't think it's necessarily the fact that there's no undefeated teams that was surprising. I think it's in the manner of how it was done. Right? The San Francisco 49ers traveled to Cleveland. It was rainy. It was cold. This Cleveland Browns team legit might have the best defense in football, at least in the NFL right now. It might. Honestly, this defense is playing probably as one of the best of all time. I know that seems like big news to say, but they were the first team to held San Francisco under 20 points, under 30 points this week. Yeah, this year. So, Justin, are you surprised by this? I mean, we'll talk specifically about San Francisco. We'll get into Philadelphia here in a minute, but Cleveland, man, the Browns with PJ Walker, nonetheless.
Yeah, but I think we all know at this point the Cleveland Browns aren't going to be an offensive football team. They're going to be a team that wins games based on what they do on defense. And this defense, especially right now, is playing out of their mind, and their front seven is getting pressure and forcing guys like Brock Purdy, who I've said multiple weeks in a row is playing some of the best quarterback in the NFL right now. He's obviously, he's your system quarterback, but he's one of those quarterbacks that needs to be on time, on schedule, and then can still make plays whenever he's forced to be off schedule. But the thing is, they were really able to get to him. You throw in the rainy, cold conditions that I think did affect the 49ers offense, and then the injuries that we'll probably talk about as well. Mm-hmm. But I think it was just the perfect combination of a great defense that got pressure to force Brock Purdy off of his first read, his second read, and kind of forced him into off-schedule things. And then just getting to Brock, and then the conditions just kind of all put it together, and perfect storm. And hey, even a team as good as the 49ers are going to lose probably 3 or 4 games at the end of the year. So if you're going to lose a game like this, it's to a team like Cleveland. It's probably going to be in the postseason. So yeah, there's a little bit of exposure and maybe a route to the Vikings winning on Monday night. Probably not, but at the end of the day, it's just football, and that's what happens.
I was about to make a comment here about how there's another Facebook user here cheering for Little Fro. I don't know no name here, but Deb got himself a fan up here. But then Krish commented and actually mentioned me in this little next comment here. So I guess I can't complain. I guess I do have a fan out there. Welcome, Krish.
I think we all got one. Take it.
Yep.
No doubt. So we all have at least one fan sitting around in the chat there. I mean, I don't need fans per se, but it is nice. You know what I mean? It's nice.
Supporter.
Deb, the San Francisco 49ers kind of look like a normal team this week. Is there anything to suggest that this might be a start of a downfall per se for the 49ers, or is it just a one-off because of how good the Browns have looked on defense?
Yeah, I think we're just going to speak about the Browns defense. Like Justin said, maybe the weather could have played a factor into how the outcome of the game happened. But I believe the 49ers are still going to do the things that they're supposed to. You know, they have a good head coach. And Shanahan, he actually knows what he's doing up there. And Brock Purdy feels good about himself. So I think he's going to continue that confidence and let that go on to the postseason, as you said. But I don't see them falling down. I think it's just a good, well-played game from Cleveland, and we'll continue to see if Cleveland can do the things they can do off of that win. So shout out to Kareem Hunt. They got Kareem Hunt back in now.
Yeah. Kareem got some run this week too. Rob, I appreciate you saying that I'm the reason you're here, man. I really appreciate that, man. That's awesome to hear. Kenyon is joining us. I wasn't sure if he was going to get to us or not in time, but we're talking about the Niners,
Right
undefeated,
right
on schedule.
That's a great time. Oh my God.
We save some of it for your team individual report later on. But what did you see in this game? Because I mean, obviously, as a Brownies fan, you got to be really excited with what you saw against San Francisco. I mean, and that included a backup quarterback, a guy you elevated off practice squad, like 4 days prior.
Man, hey, I saw a lot of grit and determination. That is Cleveland for you. Grit and determination. We here. We ready to play. That's all I'm gonna say because I'm gonna start talking forever.
Well, we'll get back to you on the individual team report for sure to get your brownie takes. Krish wants to know, Deb, when's the Little Fro album dropping? When's that coming?
Tell them very soon. Very soon.
Very soon. Okay. All right. Interscope. You running with Dre?
Maybe Interscope.
Okay. All right. Now let's jump over here to the Eagles. I mean, obviously Sam should be joining us here very, very shortly. He just left a comment as well. To make sure if you want to see your name be seen, click the link above. I don't have the link in front of me, but click that link that Sam's talking about as well. Your name will show up. The Eagles. Now, this game is a little bit different with the San Francisco 49ers game, in my opinion, and I'll get into that in a minute. I didn't really touch on San Francisco Cleveland too much because this was the game that kind of surprised me a little bit more than anything else. Deb, we'll come to you first here real quick. The Eagles were up 14-3 in this game. They ended up losing this game 20-14 in a situation where it looked like this wasn't the Eagles team of last year. What are your takeaways from this game? And if you're a Philadelphia fan, regardless if you're a diehard fan or not, should you be concerned? That's a big question here. I mean, I know that they're 5-1 and they look really good, but this game kind of exposed them because they didn't have Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed at cornerback, and the Jets still found a way to hold them to 14 points all in the first half and shut them out in the second half. Should some concerns start rising here for Eagles fans?
I wouldn't say concerns. Let's just see. I don't know how do I speak about it. I wouldn't say there should be any concerns that are happening in Philadelphia. Just like I spoke about San Francisco, they're just one of those teams that are honestly just doing what they're supposed to do right now, and everything in order to get a win. And to piggyback on what we said about Purdy, Jalen Hurts is one of those guys that young cats that are continuously to show what he has and what he wants to do in the future. But maybe it was just a good Jets game, like you said. They didn't have DJ Reed nor Sauce Gardner, so that's pretty bad on Philadelphia end. So I'm not too sure what's going on. Maybe it was just a bad loss. We'll take it as that.
No doubt. Kenyon, you play, you're an active player still, you're indoor more than anything else, but the Eagles lost their offensive coordinator, lost their defensive coordinator this year, right?
Mhm.
And the offensive line isn't necessarily, I don't want to say as affected, because a lot of the blocking schemes are generally the same unless it's a complete overhaul of an offense or defense. They hired in-house, so it shouldn't be too much of a difference, but there is something off with both sides of the ball for this team. Do you think that there should be any concerns as an Eagles fan in this situation, even though it's only one game? Again, I know it's 5-1. There's a lot of fans though that are like, I know the Eagles love to overreact as a fan base because they're very passionate. Something that the Brownies know a little bit about, but you guys expect to lose. Whereas the Eagles don't necessarily expect to lose, at least recently.
To make playoffs every year. I don't know what's going on.
You know what I mean?
We're gonna do it this year, so stop. Hey, we're gonna stop the conversation right now.
Hey, with that defense, I'm not gonna rule you out of anything. So I mean, is it an overreaction on the Eagles fans, or should they be concerned?
It's such an overreaction. I'm not concerned for them at all. Like those Eagles. They know how to come back, even if they have a bad game. They still there. They got someone in they circle saying, "Hey, we got to put that flame up under our butt and let's get up and go." So I'm not concerned about them at all. Like it was probably a fluke game at that. Hey, losing games happens every once in a while. You gotta just take it to the chin and roll with it.
I mean, I'm going to tell you as a Commanders fan, I certainly hope that there's a problem there. That's just me talking shit there. But, this is a team, Justin, they scored 23 against the Rams. They looked like they played pretty well in that game, but they still only scored 23 in a game that they kind of dominated from start to end. They didn't really get into the end zone the way that they did. There were some field goals there. The Commanders came back on them to push them into overtime in a game that they were up by 17 in. And now here they are 14-3 in this one, and they end up losing 20-14. Yeah. It's not necessarily, I think, that they should be concerned, but should some alarms start kind of maybe, I mean, from your perspective, or is it, again, just a one-off?
This one is going to be completely different to my take on the 49ers game. Like 49ers, I think that's elements playing a little bit of a factor, and then the Cleveland Browns front seven and defense being what they were getting to Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. The Eagles, on the other hand, I'm not going to say they've had the easiest schedule to get to this point, but they've had an easier schedule with a much more difficult schedule to come in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And so you're really going to have to figure out what this team's identity is. And they've been able to kind of squeak through, get wins, and then finally kind of dominated a Los Angeles Rams team that is inconsistent themselves. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, they felt like they found an identity offensively and defensively in that game. And then it's right back to the inconsistency of not really being able to figure out who they are other than Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown. And so – yes, you can say maybe it's the new coaches taking time, but again, they're in-house. So you have to look at that as saying, is it coaches that maybe aren't ready for the role that they're now having to take over? Or is this team just like every team in the history of football ever? Every team's a different team every year, even if it's the same guys.
Yeah.
And so Jalen Hurts didn't play his best game at all through the 3 interceptions. And if it wasn't for A.J. Brown, Hurts would have definitely had a terrible game. And then you look at the guys that they lost in the game, Lane Johnson, and then they already had a banged-up secondary with Reed Blankenship, Bradley Roby, and Eli Ricks that exited early in that game.
Yeah.
I don't know. They faced the Dolphins pretty soon, the Cowboys, Bills, Chiefs, and 49ers. And then, of course, they play Dallas, I believe, again at some point in the season. Like, just because of the schedule that's coming up and where they truly sit right now, I'm not sure if I'm putting stock into Philadelphia. Now, obviously, they're a good enough team that's going to be in the playoffs, even if they only win one or two of the next couple of games. But obviously, the alarms probably need to get ready to start sounding. But I'm not ready to start putting all the alarms sounding and saying, okay, everyone needs to get fired and things like that. But maybe this is also the Atlanta native in me here, the city of Philadelphia, and is maybe a little biased after what happened this past weekend in the National League Division Series.
Yeah, well, I mean, so and one of the other things that I want to bring up for a point here when it comes to the Eagles is, as a Commanders fan, I do tend to be a little more critical on certain teams in the division, and it's just because more of it's hope than it is anything else. It's a little bias, obviously, and I'm very well aware of that. But when it comes to this Eagles team, my bias doesn't run through. It doesn't run through necessarily Jalen Hurts like it used to. Like, for me, it was Jalen Hurts before. Like, was he really that guy? He's playing like the guy that I thought he was, but I'm a fan now. I have moved over to being a fan of Jalen Hurts, but I still have my reservations, right? But here's the truth about the Eagles when it comes to the Eagles. They we got Sam right on cue. Look at this. Same thing. Kenyon, we're talking about the Eagles right now. I'm going to run my piece, Sam, and then you can go ahead and tell me that I'm incorrect all you want and just tear me apart. It's fine. I get it. But I have become a fan of Jalen Hurts. I've mentioned it in the chat a few times. So I think it's a little bit less on him now, right? But I think more now in this situation, you lose the offensive coordinator. You lose the defensive coordinator. You keep a good chunk of your offense, that was there. But as you said, Justin, you hired in-house to maybe a coach that necessarily may not be ready yet, right, to take that necessarily step to become an offensive coordinator. The key part for me is how much they lost on defense. And the players that they replaced them with, or try to replace them with, the players that they lost, may not necessarily either be a good scheme fit for what they run, or as talented per se. Now, obviously, it's the NFL. Everybody's super talented for the most part, and certain players belong. I mean, we sit here and say, "Oh, that guy doesn't belong," or "Why is this guy getting another chance?" But at the end of the day, these players do, for the most part, belong, right? Like, obviously, there's a little politics that go into it, but that's a different story for a different day. The Eagles just didn't, in my opinion, tackle the free agency the way that I think they should have. Jalen Carter is a fantastic player, right? And he's there to replace Fletcher Cox whenever Fletcher Cox moves on. But Jordan Davis is there, right? Jordan Davis, I think, right? Jordan Davis is there. So was Jalen Carter really the pick that you needed to make, right? Was that a luxury pick because you were the Philadelphia Eagles, or was that a pick that you honestly felt like that was a position of need? And in my opinion, it wasn't a position of need. Now, obviously, you got a great player, right? It was a fantastic player in Jalen Carter. He's gonna, be a stud for years, and down the road, this will look ridiculous, right? Me saying that. But at this moment in time, when you're in a position to make another playoff push and another Super Bowl push, was it a position of need at that moment in time in the draft? That's my big question. Then on top of that, the Eagles also had a second place schedule last year. This year, it's a first place schedule. And I don't think people understand the difference in the schedule from first to second is a significant increase in competition level when you're playing certain things, when you're playing certain teams. In the NFL, it's any given Sunday. I mean, we all know that, and it's what it takes. But I digress because, like I said, I might be a little more biased on it, but I definitely have some concerns with this Eagles team. Moving forward, I don't want to say a ton, just because, again, I am a fan of Hurts. AJ Brown's fantastic. Devontae Smith hasn't looked as explosive either. I don't know. Sam, go ahead and you can tear me apart now. It's okay, man. I could take the beating here. Oh, by the way, welcome, Sam.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm glad I can finally make an episode here. Unfortunately, my schedule's a little crazy, so I can't make the earlier times. So, with the family out of town right now, here I am. So, while the wife is away, I guess I'll play a little bit and talk some football. But basically, I think everything you said is pretty spot on. The one thing I will say is that Jalen Carter was partially brought in because we lost Javon Hargrave. So it is eventually the replacement for Fletcher Cox, but they still needed that guy to kind of fill his spot, although Jordan Davis was more or less our a replacement for Javon Hargrave, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But no, I 100% the safety position. They should have done something there. They didn't. We were able to retain Bradbury, and we were able to retain Slay, which at one point looked like it wasn't going to happen, which was great. But that safety position is hurting us so much right now. If you watch the Eagles play, they're playing 5-10 yards off with man corners because we're scared of our safety play. And it's that bad to where it's completely changing the defensive play calling, and it's really affecting everything, including the pass rush, which has not been nearly as effective this season as it was last season, partially because of the depth and talent we had at safety. And then on the offensive side of the ball, as far as the play calling goes, I think Justin hit the nail on the head when he mentioned that Brian Johnson's probably a year too early or a couple years too early before he was an NFL play caller. Do I think he'll get it right eventually? Yes, I do. I 100% have faith in him. But it's going to be rough at first. Obviously, he's prepared, but I don't think he was necessarily quite there yet. And it's showing right now. So he's kind of going to take his lumps for the next couple weeks. But I think ultimately by the end of the season, we'll see a large improvement in how he's affecting the game and ultimately progressing as game flow goes, if that makes sense.
All right. Well,
I mean, and one note before we maybe move on to kind of piggyback off of what Sam's saying, there's a huge difference in being a guy that knows offensive football and being able to coach it at an extremely high level. And I think that's where their offensive coordinator is. But there's an even another level that you need to get to be able to sequence these plays together and make Jalen feel confident and comfortable in the system. That takes time, and there's not many play callers in the NFL that are able to do that. And the ones that you have in the league that do that, and when you get a guy like that, you need to continue to leverage that. And so, at this point, you've got to take your lumps. And with this stretch coming up pretty soon, this is a real big test for the team in general. And then you look at the Eagles, maybe I think banking too much on what they thought their front seven was going to be and sitting in cover one and trusting that the defensive front seven is going to get home. And without the safety help, it's kind of backfiring a little bit. But at the end of the day, you're still 5-1.
Right. Well, and that's the key thing here. I mean, they're 5-1 at this situation, and Sam, we will do an individual team update. So a little bit later on, so you can give a little more rundown to the Eagles as far as like what you would like to see moving forward. Just so you know. Speaking of top teams that kind of struggled this week, the Buffalo Bills and the New York Giants went down to the last minute. There's been a lot of talk about this Darren Waller, pass interference call. I hate it. I hate the talk because it takes away from everything else that happened during the game. Like when I played, one of my coaches used to say all the time, he stressed it every week, officials make mistakes. They're human. Do not let the officials determine the outcome of the game. Just go in, take care of your work, and get out of there so a play call does not happen. So I have a very different perspective on officials, that game should have, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? So Kenyon, I'll come to you here real quick because I feel like that you might have a little bit of a different perspective. It doesn't have to be a long thing, but is the Buffalo Bills in a situation where having lost Brian Dabble last year, was it that significant of an impact to this team? Because they struggled a little bit last year too.
I don't think so, because the Buffalo Bills are always going to be a solid team. They're always going to be a higher mid-tier team that's going to come and pop you in the mouth, no matter who they got. And I believe that to be my own personal opinion. Mm-hmm. But I truthfully can't say that they're like digressing or anything like that. I feel like they're making steps every week. So I'm still with the bandwagon. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's fine. I know a lot of people are, and again, the Giants are a team that they made the playoffs last year. This was a what was it, an 11-win team or 10-win team at the end of the year. A lot of people had them beating the Vikings. I'm sorry, Justin, to bring that up sour point in the playoffs and whatnot. So we and the Giants defense is always it's a team that's always been fairly defensive driven anyways, right? The offense has always been complementing the defense. Sam, is this a situation where it was just Brian Dabble facing his old team and just had his new team geared up and ready to go? Is that what that was?
I think it's honestly a show of the talent that's actually there in New York that we haven't seen all season long. I mean, quite honestly, that's a talented team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which is why you see Buffalo only scoring 14 points. But at the same time, I think it was kind of fluky because it was the Buffalo Bills. We'll see if they can sustain any sort of momentum from this game, but ultimately they lost. So I mean, I don't really know how much goodwill you can take from this game if you're a Giants player currently.
Dev, Buffalo Bills, man, in the AFC, this is a situation where it's, your boys in Houston are starting to look like they're going to at least going to push. Seeing Buffalo would have lost would have been kind of probably nice for you, I'm sure. But any takeaways from this game for you? Are the Giants better than what their record shows?
Just to say something what you said about the defense. I feel like the defense has always been, holding the Giants off from who they actually are and what their identity is. I feel like offensively they need a little help, and Daniel Jones can be their quarterback to lead them further into the playoffs. They are a playoff team, but I don't know. I feel like just the defense just holding it off. Buffalo Bills is a good team. They're one of those high caliber teams that may, lose a game that they probably shouldn't, but they're still one of those teams that can, give you a bowl run if they need to. So I don't know. I don't know about the Giants being who they are. Maybe they still a playoff caliber team, but we'll have to see and let the season go by.
Yeah, for sure. Alex has joined us. Alex, welcome. Whatnot, we're talking about the Giants Bills and their situation. That game be coming down to the end. Did you freeze? I think you might have froze. Oh, there you are. What was your takeaways from that game, Justin? I'm saving you for last for a specific reason. I have a specific question I want to ask you. So, what were your takeaways here with the Giants Buffalo game, man?
Bad choice by Tyrod. I was really hoping Tyrod won that game. I still think he's a solid quarterback. He's had some really weird situations, first in Cleveland, then the whole lung puncturing thing and with the Chargers. Like, he had some weird situations. That last throw, I would have liked a better play call. I do think it was pass interference, but Darren Waller being who he is, I expect him to make that play.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Justin, the reason I saved this one for last is you're a resident quarterback, and this is a quarterback question.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so Tyrod led this team to an almost victory against the Buffalo Bills. I know that they signed Daniel Jones to that massive contract, but a lot of people have been calling for his head since the start of the season. With the way things are going, is there a world where you see Tyrod taking this and finally getting an opportunity and chance to run with it?
Because of who Tyrod Taylor is and the history that he has, I honestly think that there is a world in which that the Giants are better moving forward with Tyrod. Now, is that the long-term solution, and is that sending the right message to your quarterback? Absolutely not. But the NFL is, you got to win every week. How can I get 1-0 this week? So, I mean, there's definitely there's potential that I can see that Tyrod is the guy, at least for a game or two, until things either start to fall back down to earth or Tyrod continues to do what Tyrod's done in other places and ball out and play well. But at the end of the day, yeah, the pass interference call probably should have been called. You look at even the kind of game management that was very poor this game by Brian Dable. And I mean, you got to address that. But at the end of the day, they're a 1-5 team. And they have talent on their team. Saquon Barkley actually looked good in the second half. But you also have to look at the Bills too. The Bills are kind of like the Georgia Bulldogs right now. You can't do well offensively in the first half, and then you bring it all to the second half to go back and take commanding leads and go do that. And Josh Allen's always been the type of quarterback that will make mistakes, but is one of the few guys in the league, like Patrick Mahomes, that will always make up for the mistakes that they make in game. And so it's tough for a game like that to have those game management errors if you're the Giants. with the timeouts and all that, knowing that you have Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills on the other sideline. If this was any other game, the Giants win. But it's against the Bills, or if you were playing the Chiefs, it probably would have been the same thing. So it's just unfortunate that you put together a really good game that you probably deserve to win. The game still gets taken away from you due to a call. But at the end of the day, you still got to have better clock management because, again, these are coaches and players that play in the league in football's greatest league. So you got to hold them to a high enough standard to say, hey, you got to know how many timeouts there are, and you can't be sending play calls in late like apparently we do in Atlanta and put your quarterback in that situation where you got to call timeouts and waste your timeouts for situations like this where you need to extend the game.
Yeah, no doubt. As far as Shane, to answer your question real quick, the poor clock management from Dabble this season has definitely been an issue overall as the whole season is concerned. Like Justin mentioned, the timeout situation is obviously a problem. As far as that run play at the end of the half, from everything that it sounds like that was 100% Tyrod's choice. He called out of it. He checked out of it. I saw what he saw. I don't even play quarterback, and I saw what he saw. He was overloaded on one side. Buffalo was not in a goal line stand. Like, they were literally playing their usually, their bear defense, but it wasn't a goal line defense. So he was overloaded on one side, and it looked like to me that the extra lineman just missed the block.
Yeah.
He missed the block on the linebacker on the block down, and Barkley just got hit. So, yeah, we could sit here and play, QB coach. Obviously, a pass makes better sense in that situation if you're going to do it. But you could see Dabble was pissed. The offensive coordinator, literally was confused, had no idea what was happening. And Dabble even mentioned at the end that it was 100% a Tyrod check, which, again, I saw what Tyrod saw, so I get it.
And I've been in situations like that multiple times in my career. It's a catch-22, right? You're the guy on the field that has to make the call and trust the guys that are on the field with you and go against what a coach is telling you is probably the smarter thing to do. If you feel like that's the correct play, you got to go with it, and you're going to be the massive villain if it doesn't work out, or you're going to be the massive hero when it does. And it's the same thing vice versa if it would have been a run play that you changed to a pass play. We saw it again in the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson and the Patriots. It's just a commonality in football, and you got to trust the guys that you got, and one guy didn't make the play.
Yep, and unfortunately, sometimes that's all it takes. One guy doesn't make a play, but another guy does. It's football.
That's also why you play the position too.
Yeah,
exactly. I think it's ultimately too, with him being a backup quarterback, it's one of those things where it's easier to say, oh, the quarterback made the wrong decision. But it's not like he handed it to anybody. That's Saquon Barkley. That's the best player on your team. You know what I'm saying? So in that situation, are you necessarily bad for relying on arguably a top 5, top 3 running back in the league? Probably not.
For sure.
You would expect him to be able to get in. He just didn't. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, the missed block.
Yep.
The only thing that I think would have caused me to maybe not check out into that play as a quarterback, and again, I don't play the position, never have, but the only thing that I would say that I wouldn't check into that is the offensive line reshuffling that they have gone through, because they have a lot of injuries there. Andrew Thomas wasn't in the game. He's arguably your best offensive lineman. Not even arguably, really. He is your best offensive lineman. So I think that I would have had to have taken that into consideration. And again, as a backup quarterback, maybe Tyrod wasn't doing all of that. So,
And I think this is a perfect segue to what I think you might bring up next, or maybe we can talk about it next after I make this host segue.
Yeah, you can jump right into it.
It's your feel versus analytics here. It's the feel versus analytic conversation. I have freaking Saquon Barkley next to me in the shotgun. And I don't care who my offensive linemen are. If you have Derrick Henry back there, if you have Saquon Barkley back there, heck, if you even have Bijan Robinson back there, those are guys that are game changers and dudes that you have to be able to trust regardless of who's on your front 5.
It's like that high percentage play argument. You know what I mean? Yeah. What's the higher percentage? Throwing it or giving it to one of the best backs in the league?
And you can listen to a great offensive play caller like Brian Dable, who does use analytics occasionally. And you could say, okay, the analytics mean we need to throw here because of what we expect them to do in the red zone. But at the end of the day, you got Saquon frickin' Barkley right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the analytics, and Kenyon, I saw you come off mute real quick, so I know you got something you want to say real quick. I'll get right over to you. You know, the analytics versus field play. I mean, that wasn't where I was going to go with it, but we might as well talk about this real quick because it's obviously been something that's been happening in the NFL that it has kind of taken the NFL by storm. Kenyon, what's your opinion on analytics versus field, and do you think that these coaches and a lot of these teams are relying too much on analytics?
Truth be honest, I hate analytics. I do. It always seems like a coach is trying to call a play because it's like, oh, it's this down and distance, it's this time, so I should run this. No, like you need to run stuff that is more for your team and your players, more or less. You know, like a lot of analytics are just like kind of changing the whole game and whatnot. Like now, like you can tell now, like people are trying to get away from it because teams are going for plays on 4th down, like 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and like stuff like that. Like you need to call plays from like almost your heart. Like it has to have some love in it,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and also I love the Saquon energy. I for sure do.
Oh, yeah.
But you still need somebody that can block for that man.
Oh, that's not a question. Like I 100% agree.
Well, I mean, and Sam, I saw you come off mute again. I'll come to you in a second here. But, like on Monday night, I was watching that game. And obviously, Brandon Staley, who I have been very critical of all year, and I'm going to continue to be critical of him because I think he's absolutely god-awful. Or at least he has been for the last, I don't know, ever since he took over head coaching job with the Chargers. Once again, failed in the red zone on 4th down on probably one of the worst play calls I think I've ever seen in my life. Like, I do not understand why you have Austin Eckler back there and you're not running some kind of put him back. If that was me, I would put Joshua Kelly at the fullback position. I would have brought in the extra heavy load, and then I would have just ran a pitch to Eckler. Like, he's fast enough to get a half a yard. I'm sorry if you don't think he is. It's awful because it was a half a yard against an over aggressive Dallas Cowboy team. Use it against Dallas's defense. Little misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
Instead you run a bootleg 2-person route where they both are running, to the goalpost, like goal line. Like that, it was obnoxious to me. Anyways, so analytics though were talked about by Joe Buck and Troy Aikman almost like every single drive. They were talking. The analytics say go for it. It's a green light. Coach Shane, I see you out there. I just want to ask you a question real quick. You can answer in the comments. We'll air it. What about you? What's your take on analytics versus the field? I see you put points there, but do you rely on analytics when you coach? Sam, I saw you come off mute. Obviously had some comments there. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I actually accidentally unmuted. But as far as the analytics conversation, I'm kind of confused why coaches don't go against it more often. I mean, if we all know that everybody's using the same analytics, why not throw a monkey wrench into that plan? I mean, if we all think that we're all going to run the same type of play in the same situation, I mean, that opens the opportunity for a lot of misdirection or, creating mismatches because of it. So it seems like crazy to me that everybody's just falling in line. I mean, I feel like at times you'd almost want to buck the trend just to make sure you're bucking the trend every once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, and that brings Sean's comment exactly into it. I completely understand the understanding of, you got to throw something to the sideline there, get out of bounds, play for get a couple yards, play for the closer end zone shot, whatever. But at the end of the day, that's what analytics are going to tell you to do. And what's the defense going to do? They're going to protect the sidelines and force you to throw it over the middle of the field. So in a way, you gotta follow at least some analytics to know how to scheme up plays. But at the end of the day, football is about what we call here in Atlanta, heart and nuts. So
yeah, I think analytics goes with that measurables conversation, where it's kind of, in a way, it's ruining the sport itself. You know what I mean? Like, how do you measure a football player? It's the same thing as these situations, like you said, with field. Like, certain things, it doesn't matter what the percentage is, but that's what you see people go to. That's what you see the analysts talk about. And it's like, sometimes that doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? Like, what's common sense? Let's give our best player the ball within the the 5-yard line, he should be able to get in. You know, it's best on best football. So analytics really shouldn't play as much of a factor as it does. But now it's about, like, who knows more. That's what it always comes down to. You know,
Or
like the
who's in
pro
what
football
coaching
focus
tree.
of it. Exactly.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
feel like that the too many coaches are relying on analytics in comparison to using it as a tool. Deb, pardon me. Deb, I mean, what's your thoughts on this when it comes to analytics? You're a former player as well. I know analytics is kind of still like, 2 to 3 year window here, but does it feel like analytics is kind of taking the replacing of coaching, and coaches are just relying too much on it to you?
Yeah, I think it's relying. I feel like you should go out there and let the players ball. As far as putting the ball in the best player's hand, and not just that, going against the grain a little bit, like somebody said. Everybody's playing an analytical game, so there should be that one person who bucks ahead, as someone said in here, and take a chance on doing something that is outside the norm. You would say so. So
Mm.
analytics it could be hurting the game. We could say that.
Well, Coach Shane just made a point as the reason why I think Brandon Staley's garbage. Anyway, I'm literally. I mean, until he shows me something different with this Chargers team, yeah, I'm going to hammer that home. And you guys are probably going to be sick of me by the end of the year. But you just look at that team against the Dallas Cowboys. You knew it was going to need to be a win. It's a must-win game for you in that situation. And I know that was only one play, and it was in the first half, but you're fourth in literally a half an inch, or half a yard, and you don't run some sort of, like, let's get Austin Eckler in space, and you just run a 2-man route, and it's just like there was no, I don't know. I don't even think there was a good play action involved, and maybe that was Justin Herbert's fault, but it was garbage across the board, in my opinion. I hated the play call. I hated that entire thing, and it cost them points.
And I will add to this too. Maybe this is to Staley's defense, even though I don't think he really needs defending. You look at those errors, and that's going to continue to be nails in the coffin at some point. That will be his coffin of getting fired, especially if this team can't turn it around and consistently be in the postseason and try to push deep. But at the end of the day, this loss I really don't think's on Staley. Yeah, you look at those two mistakes in particular and the play call and things like that. But I look at 4 particular plays, and I love Justin Herbert, and I think Justin Herbert's one of the better guys in the league. But there were 4 specific drives that on crucial downs that Justin Herbert missed throws that should have been completed, that would have extended drives, that scored touchdowns. And then they got cheated. I guess you can say cheated by refs on a spot on one of them that forced them to go into 4th down, running 3 guys into one place and putting Staley in that position to call a play like that. So you look at that and you're like, okay, give me 2 of those 4 drives that Herbert completes that 10-yard out with nobody 3 yards from him instead of throwing it into the dirt and costing them a drive. Give me 2 of those 4, and we're probably definitely winning that football game.
Yeah, he has to complete those throws to Keenan Allen. He has to complete those. And there's no excuse for that. The one was a guaranteed touchdown.
And it's exactly like you said last week, Alex. You can't always blame the coach when the player's the one on the field that's got to make the play.
Yeah, and I'm not going to absolve Herbert. I want to make it clear that I'm not absolving Herbert in this situation, especially the game against Dallas, because Joshua Palmer was wide open on a crossing pattern at the 1st down marker, and he chose to go deeper into a situation that was not pretty at one point in time on that drive, one of those drives. They did only lose by 3, but that came on a muff punt. That was it was a weird, crazy play in order for them to get there. But he did miss. I mean, he missed Keenan Allen. But you know what I saw, and I don't know if it's Herbert not trusting his offensive line. He didn't get sacked until the 4th quarter, right? Micah Parsons got the first sack of the game. It was late in the 4th quarter. But Herbert was running for his life like he was playing scared. It was almost like he didn't trust his offensive line because Dallas was getting pressure, but it was literally felt like it was almost every play. Like Herbert was like, I got to roll out. I got to do this. I got to do this. Like he sped the game up for himself. And I think that's what attributed to a lot of those missed throws and that is on Herbert. Like, and, again, like you said, Alex, you're absolutely right that the coaches are not making the plays. It's the players that make the plays. But it's just when you're looking at it from a coaching standpoint, this is the fourth week in a row, I believe, that he's gone for it on fourth down in a situation twice in his own end zone that almost cost him 2 games, and then he comes away with 0 points. Like, those are the types of decisions that I'm talking about more than it is necessarily on the players. But I'm not absolving Herbert. You are correct, Justin, by all means on that.
And I'm a huge Ducks fan, so Herbert is my guy. But at the end of the day, I don't understand. Like, you don't actually have the weapons right now that are downfield threats. I'm not saying they can't get downfield. Keenan Allen is probably one of the best receivers. Josh Palmer's a dog.
Yeah, I love Josh Palmer.
Keenan Allen is probably one of the best receivers in space. I mean, in a short area. So in terms of your 3 steps, he should be money. You know what I mean? Like, why are you holding the ball so long? I don't understand. But I think there's another underlining factor where they're trying to devalue Austin Eckler. They don't really want to pay him big money. So I don't know if they're just not using him to his full potential or what the situation is. But he's one of the best guys in the screen game. And I don't feel like they used him the same.
Yeah. And Sam, you just put up a good statistic there. That was actually pretty neat that the Chargers are 14-16 under Brandon Staley in 1-score games. So that's definitely some big issues there. Shout out to the producer there for pulling that up. Hey, look at that. Look at that, Sam.
Occasionally I do okay, right? Aside from that 3-minute intro video.
Yeah, we got to shorten that, Sam. We got to shorten that.
I'll get right on it tomorrow morning. Tell you what.
So that means next week I'll have. That means
we just had to schedule a meeting with the live higher ups, or schedule a meeting live with the higher ups there.
I do have a random question. Was anybody else looking forward to or rooting for Tyrod Taylor?
Yeah,
I definitely was. Like
100%.
Yeah. I don't think there's anybody on this. I don't think there's anybody on this panel that was rooting against him because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, the Chargers situation in Herbert's rookie year, that was supposed to be his year to showcase what he could do so he could go get himself a job. The punctured lung obviously happened. You can say it was on purpose. Some people get conspiracy theories out there. But, I mean, it was an unfortunate set of circumstances. But nobody, I think, in the NFL or anything that watches the NFL roots against a guy like Ty God, in my opinion. But
because he's not a typical backup. You know what I mean? Like, and he's had some really weird situations. Like with the Bills, they were just really young, but he had weapons. But when it comes to Cleveland, if he plays instead of Baker the next season, when they had Jarvis and all those guys, I think he balls. Because I just think he has a better skill set. And I think he was a starter before he got his lung puncture, right?
Yeah, he was supposed to be the 1 year the bridge gap guy to Herbert.
Bridge guy. Yeah, so he always just misses that one opportunity because I think he took the Bills to the playoffs 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, he reminds me of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick was you're above average, backup quarterback. He was good for a year or two, but you didn't want to make him your, you didn't want to make him your franchise guy. So you brought him in for a few years in that situation. I do want to talk about an interesting situation in Tennessee real quick. Ryan Tannehill has injured the same ankle that he had injured last year. Malik Willis came in, right? Malik Willis was the 3rd-round pick last year. Justin's boy, Tom House. Shout out to Tom House, of course. He was a 3rd-round pick last year. At one point in time, they considered him the first quarterback to be taken off the board, right? This year, the Titans then turn around in the second round of the second day, trade up to go get Will Levis after Willis was essentially benched in must-win games last year for Joshua Dobbs. Now, Dobbs obviously is playing fairly well in Arizona. He's playing, capable in Arizona. But it really surprised a lot of people because he'd only been there with Tennessee for a cup of coffee at that point in time, right? So, but this offseason, Malik Willis has been the most improved quarterback or most improved player, not just quarterback, most improved player on the Tennessee Titans, according to the Tennessee Titans internal. Tannehill is a lame duck quarterback. He's not the future there. He's not the future there. I mean, he's probably not going to get an extension. He's in a contract year. Deb, come to you, Justin. I know you got some words here, so I want to hold off just for a second.
Everything I say is biased because the dude's my best friend. So.
Well, I want to go to Deb first real quick because he's been pretty quiet over this rant. Kenyon, I'm going to come to you after that. Is this a potential for the Titans to not have to look at quarterback here in the draft next year, and maybe Willis takes over. Do you think Willis is capable of being the franchise guy in Tennessee?
I think he's very capable. I was kind of high on Willis when they drafted him, and I thought he was one of those guys that can come in and if Tannehill was to go down or say for instance they traded him or whatnot, I think he was a quarterback that could step into that system. I don't know if I'm not going to say we're looking at a time where Tannehill is done, but I think they have a future in Willis as long as they invest and build a team around him. So I see him as one of those guys. Let's not forget about the other quarterback they have. Is it Levis?
Levis, yeah, Will Levis.
So maybe they keep him also. We'll have to see how they play their parts at the quarterback position.
So Kenyon, to come to you now, with that being said, Willis is a guy who was drafted in the third. Tennessee took him because he was supposed to be the first quarterback taken. It was one of those situations where this ankle sprain may not be, a long-term situation. So Willis may only get to be that backup for the game and Tannehill comes back. But it's looking like it might keep Tannehill out for a couple of games. And then you draft Levis the following year in the second round, trade up for him. Is that just gross mismanagement and gross just piss poor management by the Titans to do something like that in your eyes?
I wouldn't even say it's piss poor. I see teams do that type of stuff all the time. So it's not necessarily a piss poor thing. It's kind of more of a shitty situation. But I feel like the backups that they got can for sure win them a game or two and maintain, the expectation that they have for the team for the time being that he's out for sure. But I don't know. I guess in the back of your mind, it's like, why would you do that? But still, I don't think it's just the worst thing ever because it happens almost everywhere. So,
yeah, Coach Shane stealing my thoughts throughout the course of in these comments, but for me, it's just a kind of a waste of draft capital. You waste a second round pick on a guy like Levis just to turn around and give Willis a chance when Willis was already on roster. Alex, do you have any problems with how they did that, or I mean, it seems just like a complete waste in my eyes. I mean, I'm all about competition, but those are two high picks. Those are 2 second-day picks that you spent on the same position because you wrote a guy off before you got a chance to even really see him.
I feel like it's one of those situations where you don't want to admit that you're uncertain of what you did before, so you try to clean it up, and now you're stuck in a position where you have 2 guys, and you really don't know what to do with either. You know what I mean? Like, why'd you draft Malik in the first place? Did you have a plan on him being the next guy up? Like, what was the point?
Right.
If that's the case, there's no reason to get Levis. It's like we had a spot, so we picked him. I don't really understand. Like, quarterbacks are so hit or miss, especially when they come from smaller schools. I could care less like where they come from, but they could end up being Josh Allen or they can end up being some other guy, you know what I'm saying? So it's hard to know. Like Malik was that guy, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think they were wrong for drafting him, but to draft Levis kind of made 0 sense.
Oh, and that's my thing. And Justin, your best friend Malik, man, I mean, he played all right, played fairly well in the game. I thought, kept him in it, didn't really make any key mistakes to cost them the game. You spend the time with him, so I know that you are going to be biased or whatever. But in my opinion, man, I just feel like if I'm the Titans, that was a second round pick that you could have used to help Willis in the future instead of wasting it. And I hate using the term wasting it, but if you're going to just waste Levis on your roster anyways, it's a waste to just sit him there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, but I'll put my GM hat on and remove myself from being best friends with Malik for a minute.
Okay.
So when I look at this, and Malik will even tell you, he did not perform in practice or even in games, the 2 games that they gave him. He did not perform to the level that he felt like he should have performed last year, leaving it open to Tennessee already starting to doubt, can he truly make the transition from the FCS level? Obviously, he played at Auburn before that. But even then, he was a backup that then was going to be the starter, but then was given or lost the job to Bo Nix on nothing but a coach saying Bo Nix is coming in as a freshman. And so you look at that, and the Titans truly did feel like it was a bad pick, that he was overhyped, and that he fell to the 3rd round, that they thought they were getting a steal in the 3rd round, like the next generation, like obviously what Brock Purdy's in a way turned into. They felt like they were getting that generational type of player, and he didn't live up to it in year 1. But at the same time, they knew he would be a long-term project. And so in a way, it's them trying to cover their losses and get a guy that they felt was more pro-ready to. So if Malik fell off, he would be the good backup to have, or you trade him away for maybe a 5th or a 6th or a 7th and try to recoup something to bring somebody else in later. But then obviously Malik took that huge step this offseason, which I was very fortunate enough to see a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. But he really did take that huge step. He stayed in Nashville this offseason, worked with guys, took the playbook to a whole new level, and the game truly started to slow for him, and you saw good signs in the preseason. Now, you still see plenty of signs that he's still not the finished product, and he's got a way to go. But you look at that, and he's truly turned around his career just through the work that he's put in this offseason. Right. So then you put the Titans now in a situation that they've gone out and spent draft capital on what they then believed was going to be their franchise. And then you're putting the Titans in a position of failure, but yet a potential position of strength to still use that as, wasted draft capital of a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft. But if Will Levis never plays and he still throws up a couple Twitter highlights or X, whatever we call it now, highlights of him doing things in practice, that might be enough to trade him to a quarterback needy team, like maybe your Minnesota Vikings or something like that, that might turn their season around enough to not be in the Drake May or Caleb Williams sweepstakes, and say, hey, well, we still need a guy, and we'll give you our 1st-round pick, or we'll give you our 2nd and a 3rd combined to get Will Levis on this roster. Like you look at quarterback or teams in quarterback needy situations like that, or heck, even the Jets. And you look at situations like that you might be able to then take advantage of that and turn that back around and right the wrong. And so that's what I feel like that situation. Now, obviously, I don't necessarily love the Titans front office and what they're doing, because they do second guess themselves a lot, which in this game you can't. But no, I mean, Malik for sure is definitely showing signs that he can be this team's franchise. And I really hope to God he is, because the kid deserves it. And he's a standout person that you want to lead an organization. And he's technically considered a local guy because he's born and raised from the north side of Atlanta in Roswell. And that's only about a 5-hour drive from Nashville. So he's a Southeastern kid in a Southeastern team in a division that they could really fight with Anthony Richardson for the next decade if Malik continues to improve.
Well, so I'm going to ask this question to Sam, and then you can come back and answer, because it is based off something that you said. You put your GM hat on, and you said that, Malik Willis didn't perform in the 2 games and in practice the way that he should have, right? And that's what led to Tennessee making this decision. Now, you did kind of rectify a little bit there at the end by saying you don't really like what's happening because they do second guess themselves a lot. Yeah. Sam, with everything that Justin just said, with his GM cap on, I know that this is something that interests you and intrigues you in. Does it sound like that the front office and the coaching staff gave up on Malik too fast, knowing that it was a potential steal in the 3rd round, but he was still a project and knew it was a long-term project, but you only gave him 2 games and practices in his rookie year to turn around and say, you're not the guy, Josh Dobbs, you've been here for a cup of tea. There you go try to win us a division. Can partially all of this be blamed by not giving the confidence to Malik from the jump?
Yeah, I think so, because I think we all talked about it. The fact that Malik Willis was a long-term project when he was drafted in the first place. That's the reason why he didn't go in the first round to begin with, right? And that we all had the questions about the level of competition and all of this stuff. But then again, when you look at how he performed, was it really that terrible considering the conditions he was playing in? I mean, this guy's got 66 total dropbacks in his entire career, and on 44 of them, he's been pressured. I mean, how are you supposed to find success when 2/3 of your passing attempts you're pressured on? And granted, he's an absolute amazing athlete, and that's a reason why he's been able to get a lot of these passes off or been able to throw them away or something like that. But at the same time, there's there's a lot of problems in Tennessee, and they're not strictly on Malik. And I totally think that it was an error in judgment, and 100% they second guessed themselves, despite knowing that they had Tannehill there. They should have just waited it out. They had more time. It's not like Tannehill is going to retire tomorrow. Is he the greatest quarterback in the world? No, but he's absolutely good enough to get this team to a playoff run if he continues to play well, which he has. But you also got to build a roster around him. And to me, that was what I thought the whole plan was. You bring in Malik on the cheap in the third round. You keep him for 1-2 years as the backup. You build up the talent around him on the roster and then hand him a talent-laden team while he's still on his rookie contract. That's GM 101 right there. So I'm not sure why they kind of reneged on that plan. I get drafting Will Levis was probably the smart, safe pick, but at the same time, you wasted a draft pick. And I get the quarterback every year thought process, but not in the second round after you drafted one in the third.
And a trade capital too, because they made a trade to move up. So they traded they wasted that as well. Justin, 1 second before you answer to that. Krish with the hot take of the year that Malik is a long-term project, and this is what was part of the reason why it didn't work at Auburn. I don't know, but at least he said Justin's going to get him right. Justin, to answer anything that you just heard me ask Sam and Sam's response to that, I mean.
No, first off, I'll go to Krish's take. I've got my own reasons why things didn't work out at Auburn, but we can just agree to disagree. But no, I mean, you look at Tennessee, and I think another great example of kind of not necessarily the incompetence of this organization, but just the ability to second guess themselves is even where they've put their roster in right now. They're half rebuilding, half competing. Like how you go out and then try to sign DeAndre Hopkins to force a window with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill to try to go win. But at the same time, you're then still expecting a bunch of young guys to sit on the bench, develop, and then be ready in a year from now or 2 years from now. You can't kind of go half in, half out. Now, granted, you're in probably one of the worst divisions in football, so I guess you can still compete with 2 or 3 solid guys on your roster. And go about it that way. But it's just kind of very weird to say or to see what this team's been doing and how they construct rosters and how they want to continue to push out a window without truly making decision, okay, we're going to rebuild or we're going to really try to go for this thing. Because I feel like if they were to truly just stick to one decision of we're going to go for this thing or we're going to trade off assets and rebuild, then they have a solid piece going forward to say, we could do either one of these things, but it's not time to straddle the fence. And I think straddling the fence is what's costing this franchise valuable fans, valuable wins, and a lot of different things. And they could screw up Malik's career. They could screw up Will Levis's career just as side effects of it.
Yeah, I mean,
they Washington don't care about that.
Washington ruined RG3 career, so I mean, yeah, they don't care about that.
They don't care about that. What they did with Cousins and RG3 is ridiculous. So.
Oh, God. Don't even get me started, man. Justin, let's jump into it, my man. Everybody's favorite NFL segment here. Your top 5 quarterbacks of the week, the QB. Look, Kenyon's even pumping his fist down there. Yeah, he's all excited. Give us your top 5.
To write a jingle or something for this since he's hopping around.
Maybe we can put some more on Sam's plate because he doesn't have enough.
Hey, I mean, Deb's got the Deb's got the soundtrack coming out. Hey,
that's right. Yeah,
add that to the mix. Get Deb on the mic.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a little beat you can throw in. So, yeah. All right, yeah. Let's get to it,
Yeah.
Justin. Jump right into it, my man. This is your
So
time now.
This week, I would say quarterback play wasn't necessarily terrific. So these names are a lot easier to pick than others, but I still got some honorable mentions and then maybe a little different top five. So at my honorable mentions, I got Matthew Stafford, Brian Hoyer, this other Patriot beating the Patriots. So we thought it would be Jimmy Garoppolo beating the Patriots, but it was the both of them. And then Patrick Mahomes. I mean, those guys are. I mean, they made their mistakes. They played well, and heck, you can maybe say my number 5 is a biased pick. But number 5, I think everybody already knows. Malik finally got in, finally played. 118.8 QBR, 4 of 5, 74 yards. Yes, I'm saying the 74 yards. Yes, he threw one like 60-something yard gain on a little screen pass. But hey, I don't care. I'm biased. Malik's in my top 5. So hey, there. Now to the real number 4. I got Dak Prescott, number 4. 109 QBR, 21 of 30 for 272 yards and a touchdown. Kind of went back to playing kind of vintage Dak Prescott, get the ball to playmakers, made some plays, crossing routes, getting guys open, and finally stopped turning the football over. Now, obviously, this has been a little bit better Dak in most games this season. But, I mean, if Dak doesn't turn the football over, he can still be a solid guy. Well, keeping it in the NFC East, Mike, your guy, Sam Howell, comes in number 3 on the list. The dude is balling in Washington, 119.7 QBR, 14 to 23 for 151 yards and 3 touchdowns. Didn't have to throw very much and still really only completed a little over 50% of his passes. But when you throw 3 touchdowns in a week that not many quarterbacks really played very well, that's how you get number 3 on my list. And then for my top 2, I really think both of these could be interchangeable. But I'll go Jared Goff at 2, 107.5 QBR, 30 of 44, 353 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Lions offense is riding high. And let me just make the little mention, maybe to jinx it as a Viking fan, but every team that has been the talk of the town that week has then followed it up by a loss. You can look at every single one of these. So Lions maybe talk of the week, maybe they lose again next week. And then number 1, the league leader in passing, Tua Tagovailoa, 126 QBR, 21 of 31, 262 yards and 3 touchdowns. And might I add, for all your concussion lovers there, he wasn't even touched once. So no going near concussions for Tua, and this offense is continuing to fly high. So that's my week 6 top 5 quarterbacks of the week.
I certainly hope no concussions for Tua. I am surprised that you didn't mention Desmond Ridder, because he played a career game. I mean, granted, it was a Washington defense, so you could pretty much take that quarterback and insert him anywhere there against us right now. I'm actually surprised you didn't put him on there, though, or at least even on the honorable mention side of things, because he played really good.
Yeah, but
you guys lost, but I mean,
yeah, they lost. But at the end of the day, what was it? Still 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, the interceptions were a problem. Yeah, but
so you look at that, and 300+ yards for 2 weeks in a row. Great, but I mean, when you turn the football over 3 times, and that's part of the reason why you lost. Yeah, you can't get in my top 5 there, even in a down quarterback.
You know what? I'm going to digress there. I'm actually going to take that back, and I put my foot in my mouth. I actually forgot he threw 3 picks. Yeah. I knew he threw 1 to Danny Johnson. Yeah, I knew he threw the 1 to Danny Johnson to cost the game, but I forgot that he threw 3. So I put my foot in my mouth there before I said before I should have just not even said anything. Eagles, you know what? We won't touch on this too much. We'll make this a little short because they signed Julio Jones. Alex, you're the receiver of the group. Is this just a name signing, or is there still some juice there for Julio?
I think it's still some juice there because what you're asking him to do. I mean, Julio to be your 3. I don't see any way. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking about a generational talent. So in any way you look at it, if he can give you a fraction of who he's been in his career, so he's a 4.3 guy. So if we're talking speed, it's not going anywhere. That means he's 4.4, maybe 4.5. I doubt he dropped that far, but still, like, he can give you anything that he's better than most threes on any other team. So I think that that's a great signing. Like, you're not going to ask him to carry your offense, anything like that. So I think it's a great pickup. I mean, having not played majority of last year and sitting out the first 6 weeks, he should be fresh. And I mean, how many snaps can he play as the 3?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those are all fair points across the board. Deb, what about you, man? I mean, is this going to make it any kind of significant impact? And Sam, I'm coming to you last, because we're going to segue right into the individual team report. So we'll run with that. So Deb, what about you, man? You a fan of this move?
Yeah, I'm a fan of it. I think it's just depending on what role they want him to play on the team as a 3, as they said. But I think it's a win anyway. Regardless. Like Alex said, he said you can give him a fraction of what he's been doing in the league for however long he's been successful in it. Him just going in and maybe being that guy to see if he can collect 500 yards for the team in the next games of the season. That'll be good. So hopefully I can see it being a success. It's a win to me.
Justin, what about you, man? What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, as a resident of Atlanta and a guy that loves Julio Jones in Atlanta, I think it's nice to see Julio back in the league, especially for a team that is having a chance to go back to a Super Bowl and try to go win another one. I hate the city. I will say that unless the Eagles send me a contract. But no, at the end of the day, Julio's being expected to not necessarily play the same role that a Julio Jones would typically have to go in and play. I mean, you saw it in Tampa that there was flashes that he could be something, but again, injuries started piling up and age started becoming a factor. So I feel like some of this could be a little bit of a name factor signing, but no, Julio still has plenty left in the tank, especially 6 weeks in that he hasn't had to play in. So there's less games for him to stay healthy for. So I think it's a positive signing, but it is still a lot to be seen.
And it's time for individual team report. Sam with the Philadelphia Eagles, since we're just talking about Julio, let's just jump right into it. Eagles report.
Well, to start with the Julio move, I am not a fan. I talked about it in our private chat. I personally think that this is a move that is very short term, which is fine. I get it to a certain extent, but there were definitely players out there that you could have gone and got that made a little bit more sense long term, maybe had a little bit more upside. But ultimately, I guess if you need that clutch receiver for the playoffs, Julio is one of the best guys on the market to go get at this point in the season. So I guess there's worse moves to make. Just not a big fan of that.
You just got to have him healthy when that happens.
Exactly. Which I think he has a good chance of doing this season, but we'll see. One thing that kind of scares me is it seems like bad luck with Super Bowls, or at least following Super Bowls, kind of follows him. So, he went to Tampa Bay right after they won. They didn't do anything. Philadelphia was in the Super Bowl last year, so hopefully that trend doesn't follow him again. But ever since that Atlanta Super Bowl loss with him and the Patriots, he hasn't had good luck with big games, so we'll see what happens. But ultimately, as far as the Eagles go, we have got to make a trade for safety. The rumor's been that Howie Roseman's looking around the league, shopping for defensive backs help. We've lost so many guys back there, Vontae Maddox, just down the line, that we were forced to play Josh Jobe outside at multiple times because of the fact that James Bradbury is a better slot corner. That's all sorts of wrong when it comes to the Eagles defense. We were never designed to do that. So I'm excited that Sidney Brown is getting a lot of playing time early. And that's great. I mean, I think he's going to be a great player, but ultimately we need to bring in somebody that can basically anchor that back into the defense. I really don't care if it's a strong safety or a free safety. Realistically, both of those positions can really affect the defense right now in a positive manner, whether it's covering the mid center of the field, as like in the box safety, or you're talking single high and a guy like Justin Simmons, who I would really love to see with the Philadelphia Eagles. But ultimately, we need some help. I would not be opposed to seeing them bring in some pass rush help as well. Maybe getting rid of Derek Barnett finally would be a great move personally. but I don't think that's going to happen this season.
No, I'm
But,
sorry. I'm sorry, Sam. You brought up Derek Burnett's name, and I don't know if you guys saw the video or not. Did you guys see this video?
I have not.
Mekhi Becton.
Mhm.
Okay, so Mekhi Becton, he knocks Derek Burnett flat on his ass in this game, and then as Derek Burnett's getting back up, Mekhi Becton just points at him to just don't move, just stay right there. I'm sorry, it was just the video, the way that it was just so funny that Becton, instead of just letting him get back up to get back and just pointed at him just stop, don't even. Sorry, go ahead, Sam. I just made me think of it.
Well, I actually missed that play, but yeah, just another reason why we need to get rid of him, because honestly, he gets bullied quite often. But I understand why we drafted him. He was very productive in college, but it just hasn't panned out in the NFL at any point, it seems like. So it's time to move on. I like Josh Sweat. I like Hassan Reddick, but we need a little bit more there. I'm not really sure of the options right now that would make sense. I would have to look across the league. But ultimately, we need some help on that defensive side of the ball right now.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. Let's jump over to the Bengals. They got a big win this week against the Seattle Seahawks. Alex, that's your team. What's the report down there?
I don't know what's going on with us. We go 1 week where we're, making it a priority to get Jamar Chase the ball. Then we go to next week and we don't. It is an upside that that Joe Burrow is looking more mobile. He's looking more healthy. He's being able to escape the pocket and extend the play better. I'm still on the fence with Joe Mixon. I'm not a fan and I won't be, but I thought he was doing better this year. But I'm backed up from there. And really want to get Charlie Jones back because we're still he came in, made immediate impact on our special teams, and now he's hurt. So we're stuck with Trent Irwin, who is the fair catch specialist, and I don't like it.
Yeah. The Bengals offense still looks very sluggish for what they have for talent. It might be time for Mixon to go. But we'll see what happens with that from there on out. Deb, your Houston Texans, big win this week against New Orleans Saints. I'll be honest, I did not pick the Texans to win that game, but they proved me to be a liar. That's a surprise.
Not intentionally.
Yeah, it was a good win.
I feel like CJ Stroud didn't have to do too much.
What did he threw for 199? And I wanted to see the run game get a little better. You got Singletary that went for 12 rushing attempts for 58 yards. So hopefully we can continue to add on to that. We 3-3 right now, so it looks good for the Texans.
Yeah, no doubt. You guys have got a weak division.
He's looking good.
Yeah, you guys got a weak division too. So Jameis is not a number one quarterback. That's why he's the backup behind Derek Carr in New Orleans, by the way. Facebook user. I don't know who that is because there's no click there. I shared the video, guys, in the chat. I shared it in each one of them. I shared it in the network chat, and I shared it in the Goal Line Stand chat for the Mekhi Becton video. Justin, give us your Minnesota Vikings report. Win against the Chicago Bears. I don't know if you can hang your hat on that one. And you're a partial fan with the loss to Washington with the Falcons.
Yeah. So, you look at Minnesota, and their 2 wins are against teams that are combined 1-11 this season. So you can't really hang your hat on this season turning around just from that. But Justin Jefferson's going to be out, so you need guys like Addison and Hawkinson to step up. But what you really need is the running game to step up, which I thought the addition of Cam Akers would help. But Madison has not been very efficient in the run game, and they continue to trot him out every single play. And so 22 carries for 46 yards or something like that, I believe. The run game, yes, the Bears defense is actually fairly good in the run, but you can't. You got to be able to consistently get 3 to 4 yards in the ground to be able to set up a play action pass game that still really works well with Kirk Cousins. It's one of the things Kirk does very, very well. And so you got to be able to do better and sequence that. Now, that's not a Kevin O'Connell thing. He's doing the best that he can. But at the end of the day, Fields got hurt. Then Badgett came in, and you got to win versus a backup quarterback that's in his rookie year out of a small school. So you can't really say stock up, stock down. It's just that's a game you got to win if you want to try to turn around your season. And Madison's end of year stat 300 carries. Now I would say 300 carries for about 540 yards. And then quick hometown Atlanta Falcons recap too. I mean, you can kind of question Arthur Smith's decision to go for 2 to try to make it a touchdown wins the game type score there. That was a little head scratching. But I think Matt Ryan in the booth actually said it best of all people. Thank you, Matt. Yeah. I think Matty Ice, where Arthur Smith needs a lot more criticism than what he's getting in Atlanta. And I'm a fan of Arthur Smith. I've had to deal with him a couple times, but at the same time, it's starting to really feel like the Tennessee Titans in a way, where we have players on the team that can help you win football games, but everything's just so stale and not exciting to watch. And then obviously you look at Desmond Ridder and the interception in the red zone in the fourth quarter that pretty much sealed the game. You can't have that, but I mean, so that's Desmond Ridder's first home loss in his career ever from college and pro. So congratulations, commies. You definitely set history. So, I mean, on to Tampa Bay next week, and then for Minnesota on to San Fran on Monday night.
If we get rid of the Commander's name, which to be honest with you, I really hope we do, because I think it's absolutely garbage. I really honestly hope that we just go to with Wolfpack. Just go with the Wolfpack. Just leave it simple.
I want Red Tails. Just throw that out.
The Red Tails are good too. I like the Red Tails too. Red Tails are a good one as well. But I mean, the Red Wolves were the fan favorite. They were the lead. The lead when the name change came. They couldn't do it because somebody bought up all the copyright crap. I don't know. Anyways, I sarcastically made a comment a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if anybody really caught it, because when I'm sarcastic, sometimes it comes across as me being serious. And I said I was really happy that Washington drafted Emmanuel Forbes. I'm not. And I'm just going to be truthful here now. Emmanuel Forbes is garbage. It was an issue that I had with him when he was in this draft class. Was he's undersized. He's lanky. He's tall. He's 6'4", but the dude probably weighs less than Sam. And Sam, you're probably what, 180? So right around there. Yeah, was that a lucky guess? I don't even know. But this dude is like 164. Like, he's getting pushed off the ball. It's not going to fly with a guy like A.J. Brown across from you in that division. You got to see him twice. It's not going to fly with CeeDee Lamb, who's even smaller, because you're going to get pushed around. Plain and simple. It's awful. You got outplayed by Danny Johnson, who was an undrafted free agent. Our secondary is going to make almost every quarterback opposite of us look like a friggin' genius. I mean, Ridder had some issues, but he still threw for 300 yards on us, right? I mean, I don't know. Jack Del Rio needs to go. I'm so sick of this defense watching Jack Del Rio out there. It reminds me of the Mike McCarthy situation, where I feel like the game has passed him by. Ron, I get it. You're loyal to a fault. Just come on, man. The offensive line played a little bit better. Howell was upright a little bit. He still took some sacks. I mean, some of that's still on him too as well, but he's still playing so good. Like, just from a fantasy perspective, which can correlate to real life, just so people understand. Sam Howell has outscored Trevor Lawrence in 5 out of the 6 weeks that they have played, as far as his ability is concerned. So, or 4 out of the 6 weeks, because I think week 1 was like a 1 point different. But if you go take a look at the numbers, his numbers are very comparable to Trevor Lawrence, except for the sack numbers. If we can get our sack numbers down, Sam Howell can lead this team to a playoffs this year. I know the NFC is weak, and I know that we play in a very, very tough defense, but this is our very tough division. But this is an opportunity and chance for us to be able to try to sneak in there and be the third team out of the NFC East to get that opportunity to make a playoff push. And Sam Howell, I really fully believe, can get us there. Krish, the Patriots we were going to talk about tonight, we're going to table this. We're going to see another week, see what happens. The offense looked a little bit better. Kendrick Bourne played fairly well for the most part. We'll see what we'll see what happens next week. But we need you here when we talk about the Patriots because there's a lot going on in New England right now. Just to throw that out there. I don't have anything else tonight. Sometimes some subjects and stuff pop up. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has anything. Are we good? AC?
I mean, just as a quick note, 34 days after Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, he's already out of a boot tossing a football around on the sidelines. So
yeah.
Medical magic.
He did say that he still has a lot of hurdles to overcome and he still has a long ways to go, which he does, and it's nice to see him at least being determined to get there. But it's not his heart that I have an issue with.
Oh yeah,
it's whether or not his body will actually allow.
I know that's what I was going to follow up with. My question is over under on the medication right after he got off the field there.
I mean, it depends on how many mushrooms he has waiting for him when he gets off the field, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I to be honest with you, as much as I don't like Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to be very honest. I do not like Aaron Rodgers. I don't. I've never have. He's not a guy that I've ever put my faith into. He's a fantastic player, and at 39 or however old he is, whatever. I would like to see him back, though. I'd like to see him back on the field because I think the NFL is better when he's on the field. That's just, my assessment. Even though I don't like him, I think the NFL is better when he's on the field. And maybe I'm just being biased because I just don't like him, but, whatever.
I guess one of my questions would be for Justin. Since we seem to talk about this a lot, depending on quarterbacks, is Aaron Rodgers that good? Or has he just been a product of some very good teams? Because he doesn't win. Yeah. But when he did win, he had the Defensive Player of the Year and one of the best defenses in the league. And he also had a receiving core that was 5 deep with 3 1,000-yard receivers.
Justin, just before you answer that, my argument with Aaron Rodgers is the same argument I have with Brett Favre, and that's the reason why I don't like either one of them. So I'm just throwing that out there. So go ahead, Justin. I don't. Brett Favre put his team in more harm's way than he did good for that team overall as a whole.
Well, somebody say something for like maybe 30 seconds, and I'll be right back since you said
okay. Well, then I will. Okay, here we go. God, he's going to come back with Brett Favre.
Probably. Like, hey, in my living room right now. Hold on.
Justin's going to turn into friggin' Jerry Springer over here. Whoa, it just so happens we have Brett Favre.
Watch, he's going to have
like make the case for Favre not deserving to be
see, there it is.
You got to put it on backwards. All right.
You put that jersey on of all jerseys?
Yeah, hey.
At least he didn't put the jersey one.
All right.
At least he didn't put the Jets one on.
Blew it in. He had a real good team with them.
At least he didn't put the Jets on.
Okay, this is what made me a football fan. Okay, but anyway, God, so I mean, you look at Aaron Rodgers and what he's kind of gone through and the situation that he's had. I think it's a little bit of a conversation similar to a Tom Brady. Like, yes, to win Super Bowls and to be in really good situations, you have to have a good team around you, because I've never seen teams that have one quarterback and nothing else on their team truly go out and be super competitive. Yeah, they can maybe get to the playoffs being a wild card team or things like that. But at the end of the day, like, one player, when there's 10 other guys on the field, like, you got to at least have competent to a little above average guys on the field to help you. So, I mean, I would say that similar to kind of what Shane said, like, I'm not going to say that with the Breeze thing. I think Breeze is even a step above. But no, Rodgers, very, very good regular season quarterback. Come playoffs, maybe there's a little bit of shrinkage in the cojones there. And that's, again, coming from a Viking fan that never liked him. So, he's honestly one of the most talented quarterbacks I think we've ever seen in the National Football League. But at the same time, just because you're the most talented doesn't make you the greatest of all time.
Well, and I'm glad that, Alex, you asked that question here, because Justin, we do talk about quarterbacks a lot, right? The league, we talk about quarterbacks. It's quote unquote the most important position on the field. I say quote unquote because I'm biased towards offensive tackle because I'm an offensive lineman. You're probably biased towards quarterback because you're a quarterback.
I'll even throw center out there too.
Oh, hey, I played that position. I like center. Sam mentioned center when we had this conversation too. So we do talk about quarterbacks a lot, though, right? And at the end of the day, quarterback is one of 22 guys that start that you need to make a team, right? So
yeah.
So I use this comparison a lot, and this is how I always say it. Okay, Tom Brady is probably the smartest quarterback to ever play the game, right? Okay, I'll tell you why. Hold on.
Yeah.
Tom Brady is the greatest system quarterback to ever play the game. It's not a knock. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's a knock."
Trust me, I get you. I agree with you.
And to me, Peyton Manning is the greatest quarterback to play the game. Okay, now that's just where I'm at with
the ability to throw a spiral.
Well,
he got it.
Well, I mean, hey, his numbers on he could have thrown ducks his entire career with those numbers. But
over Joe Montana.
Well, okay, over Joe Montana, but here's why Tom Brady, to me, won 7 championships in comparison to a lot of these other quarterbacks only won 1 or 2. Right? Mm-hmm. The amount of cap space, the percentage cap space that the quarterbacks ate up in comparison to Brady. Brady only has played 27% of his career with defenses outside the top 10. When you look at Drew Brees, you look at Peyton Manning, you look at Aaron Rodgers even, you take a look at some of these other quarterbacks, every single one of those guys is upwards of 70% of their snaps with a defense that was not ranked in the top 10. It's a huge discrepancy, but that's the reason why I say that, because Brady would always take less money to make sure that the teams around him were better.
Yeah.
Right? Peyton Manning didn't do it until the second Super Bowl when he was in Denver, where he took a little bit of a pay cut. I wouldn't say much of a pay cut, but he took a little bit of a pay cut and put a good team around him. But a lot of those were more young players, right?
Yeah.
So it begs a interesting question, because I wonder where Aaron Rodgers fits into that. I did not see Aaron Rodgers' name on that list. And where would Brett Favre fit into that, right? You said Brett Favre when he was in Minnesota was your favorite player. That makes me feel old as shit.
I'm just saying that's actually what made me a football fan. Was Brett Favre in Minnesota, because I was late to the game and even playing football.
And again, another one of those things with Brett Favre, man, it's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I may not like him, but when he was literally on the field, the NFL was better. It's the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I don't like him by any means, but when they're on the field, they're much better. So the NFL is much better. So, I mean, again, it's a quarterback position. It's you make the arguments about all that stuff, about this and that. But I just wanted to mention that real quick because we were brought up about the QB side of things there. And because we do spend a lot of time talking about it, and I think we spend a lot of time talking about it because it's such a interesting topic, or it's such a hot debated topic in football, where if we were talking about offensive tackles, it'd just be like, he blocked him.
And that's the thing too, just to kind of put all this kind of argument to bed. Part of the reason why Tom Brady is the GOAT is not only was he one of the greatest system quarterbacks of all time that got the ball to playmakers and made plays when he needed to, but he did take, similar to Shane's comment, which I'm alluding to, he was one of the few to ever take pay cuts to get guys around him because he knew he needed a team to win a Super Bowl. It wasn't just him. And so I'm all for, because I'm looking for it myself, make as much money as you humanly possibly can. Because at the end of the day, it's you and your life, so you got to do what you got to do. And and you never know how many times you're ever going to be in that position to make that money. But at the same time, what made him so great was his ability to do that. And then what's the GM model now of winning Super Bowls and creating quote unquote dynasties? Whenever you hit on a quarterback in year 1 and year 2 of his 4-year with the 5th-year option tag, if he's a first-round guy, that's your window to compete. It's not when they sign the mega deal after that, because then you have to become the New Orleans Saints and start swindling the cap like you're the banks in Washington D.C. So I mean, you can't win nowadays if your quarterback is making 20-25% of your salary cap.
No, you can't. It doesn't matter if the cap goes up every year. You just can't do it. It's just not. It's proven it's not possible.
Ultimately, which one do you feel like is the better? Because I think like Tom Brady is so exceptional because he has 7 rings?
Yeah, 7.
But that's praising.
And I mean,
that's praising individualism for a team accomplishment, though.
Yeah.
Agreed. But when we talk about this one player, right?
Yeah.
The reason I asked about in terms of we talk about guys like Mac Jones. We talk about guys like just quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And you talk about weapons versus not having weapons. When you look at Tom Brady, I can't remember Tom Brady having a 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah.
I can remember him having one generational talent at receiver ever, and I was with Tom Brady.
Yeah. Other than Randy Moss.
Randy Moss.
That was with Randy Moss.
Corey Dillon, Randy Moss.
But Corey Dillon wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, that's like playing with
you were just talking about
Fred Taylor. I mean, like, when they actually played together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, he has one success in terms of as a Super Bowl champion, but a lot of individual success. He has 2 or 3 MVPs.
Yeah, I believe it's 2 MVPs and
played Drew Brees.
Yeah, but that team that he played on, I mean, Charles Woodson was the Defensive Player of the Year. B.J. Raji was All-Pro. Matthews was All-Pro as well. You know, so when you look at those teams, is it more so? I think he's a guy with a generational skill set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like one of the best throwers of the ball we've ever seen.
If it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes coming into the league, I think he would still be the biggest talent to ever, or the most generational talent to ever play in the NFL. And I think Patrick Mahomes has only barely surpassed him.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's definitely your choice of what you like. Because there are things Patrick Mahomes can do that he can't do, and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Potato there.
Yeah.
But I think he trumps the argument as well, because Tyreek leaving and him winning, that put him in a whole other category too.
Because you can elevate guys around you, which is something that the highest elite quarterbacks typically do.
And Kansas City,
Aaron Rodgers has done that too, because he's had Randall Cobb is his best receiver, almost in the history of him being a quarterback of the Packers.
Who? Aaron Rodgers?
No.
Probably Devontae Adams.
Oh well, yeah. Oh, true. I forget.
I mean, you forget.
I just kind of erased Aaron Rodgers in my brain. Yeah.
You forget Aaron Rodgers played with arguably, you could argue, a top 5 receiving core in the league.
Oh, that is true.
For 4 years. No, when he had Greg Jennings, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, James Jones.
Yeah, that's where the brain memory goes blank, because the Vikings had Christian Ponder. There you go.
Yeah, like that. Aaron Rodgers. That's why that was my initial question. Like, he played with some really good receiving cores.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so is it him? Because that championship team was loaded.
Yeah. You know, and another thing could possibly be too is the level of when you're a quarterback, and Justin probably can attest to this. You have to have a certain amount of confidence about you. Like, you have to believe in your own abilities, and you have to believe in your confidence, and that you are,
nobody's even going to listen to you in the huddle if you don't walk in that thing like you own it.
Like, we talked about that when it came to when your quarterbacks start stuttering and stuff, that's not a good sign. But at the same time, a lot of quiet arrogance and a lot of quiet cockiness exudes from Aaron Rodgers to me. Almost like he believes too much in himself. Like, he's capable of being able to do this. And I don't know if it's necessarily something that's a bad thing, but I feel like it could also be something that hinders him. Because I feel Brett Favre had a lot of that same qualities. I don't know if it's just a Green Bay thing, or if it's because Aaron played 4 years under Brett and saw it, or whatever it may be. It just really feels like it's when you start believing too much into your own hype, it causes almost like a weird regression.
You think you're Superman and you're unbeatable.
Right. Yeah. You get this air of invincibility around you, Sam's on the call. You may not like this one at all, but Colorado. Like, you take a look at what's happening with Colorado, and you see what's going on with Shadur, and you see what's happening there, right? Like, you see these types of things that take place, and you wonder if it's too much,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and so before we segue maybe away from this, I'll pull out a whole Tom House quote. Spent time with him this weekend again, and it's always great when I can spend time with him. But for his definition of cockiness and confidence there's a very, very white, very like black and white line of the difference between cockiness and confidence. Cockiness is knowing you didn't do the work and you're trying to just fake it till you make it. And confidence is your ability to know your process is a proven process that's going to lead you to the outcome you desire. And you're confident to a level of cockiness in that process because you put in the work to have that. So if it truly is cockiness, then okay, yeah, that's what's detrimental to it. But if you have guys that walk in with that confidence because you know you put in the work and you know everything that you went through to get to this point,
right?
Then it's going to rub people the wrong way. But at the end of the day, who cares about the other 52 guys in that locker room?
Right. No, for sure. And again, I'm just on the outside looking in this situation, and it's not something that I think would ever bother Aaron. Like, if I said it and he heard it, like, I don't think it would be one of those things. He would be like,
at the end of the day, if he was a Green Bay Packer or a New York Jet,
right.
Those are the fan bases that are going to love him doing that, and then everybody else is going to hate the crap out of him.
Well, right. And that's not why I dislike Aaron.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like one of those things
there's a mantra and personality and an aura about him that I don't care for.
Yeah, pretty much is what it boils down to for me as well. So I mean, I don't think there's any other segue. I mean, Sam kind of was chuckling about the Colorado stuff because he knows that I've been pretty critical of them heading into the season. This isn't a college show.
Duly so, by the way.
Huh?
I said duly so, by the way, at this point. I mean,
I just felt the hype was too much, man. I just felt that there was too many people hyping this up. Like, I love Dion. I know that he's going to turn the program around over there. He's already started doing it. It's
100%.
just you were still a 1-1 team. We still didn't know what you had there. It was a lot of FCS players that came in the transfer portal outside of Travis Hunter, who was really the only guy that was recruited to an FBS school. He was the top 5-star recruit, and he's sensational. They need to figure out what they're going to do with him, though, because he can't play both ways forever. Yeah. I mean, you're talking 100+ snaps a game.
I think he can. He just can't do that.
Yeah,
I think he can play both ways. He just can't do that.
Yeah, the 100 snaps a game.
Like,
he gave up.
That's a lot.
On one side
he got
of the ball.
torched. He got torched. Deb, you played DB, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he got torched, man. Like,
I believe he just has to play. He has to play less snaps on one side of the ball, and I think receiver is where he needs to be, and corner is less of what he needs to be. So, we'll see.
Really, I actually think if you look at the plays in its whole, is it Ayu Manor, something like that. Cooper, number 3, the one that transferred from Florida State, gave up that 97-yard touchdown. So that's not Travis. The one where the guy pinned it to the back of his head, I mean, you cannot play better defense than that. He's just bigger than you. You know what I mean? Like maybe track the ball. And the one that when they threw the fade from the slot that Travis, I mean, that's just a good play. He put it in a blind spot. He caught it, went underneath. But in terms of, I don't think it would have been much as a problem if this wasn't his first game back. But in the same breath, somebody else got to pick up something. You know what I mean? Like, Cooper was non-existent. 23 should not have been out there. They're not getting anything from Kermani McClain because he beat Kermani on a drag that he took for like 40 yards. So he was torching their entire secondary. You know what I mean? And I just feel like I think he played 140-something plays.
Well, and that's my problem is the 100+ plays on both sides. Now I did see an interesting thing on X or Twitter or whatever the hell you want to call it. The play where the wide receiver pinned the ball in the back of his helmet and scored the touchdown. Mm-hmm. Travis Hunter got beat on that play. He had got burned, and it was a poor throw by the quarterback. It was a great play by the wide receiver, but it was a poor throw by the quarterback that made it look like it was actually good coverage by Hunter. If that ball was a little further out, Hunter was behind him too far. So that was the problem. And Shane mentioned it in there that it was basically the same stats, both offensive and defensively. What he scored offensively, to me, I think Hunter's a much better wide receiver than he is a DB. But I think he also has shutdown DB ability. It's just if you are doing both sides and playing 100+ snaps, somewhere it is going to end up suffering eventually. Whether he had gotten hurt or not in that Colorado State game, he probably would have got hurt in USC or UCLA. Like playing that's what 400 snaps. He's played 4 games, 500 snaps almost in 4 games.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of snaps.
And the dude was still hospitalized, and that was his first game back from it.
Right.
And then you even have to look at it too. How much of it is missing Shiloh Sanders in the back end of the defense too?
Well, and again, a lot of they were missing some players in that same.
I don't think 43 played neither. The other safety, I don't think he played either.
But again, it's a situation though where Colorado was filled with a lot of players that were not FBS recruited initially. They were FCS recruited. Travis Hunter's really the only guy. Shedur's an interesting situation because Tennessee was in on his recruiting his junior year, but they pulled his offer moving into his senior year, and he was committed to Florida Atlantic, which was a secondary FBS school at the time. But Lane went to Ole Miss, and then Dion took the job at Jackson State. So you could put Shedur in that situation, but outside of that, there was really not a lot of the guys that transferred in. Outside of like Alton McCaskill and a couple other guys that were coming off injury that transferred in that were really highly recruited FBS guys. Like Jimmy Horn was another guy. He went to South Florida, wasn't really highly recruited, transferred to Colorado because he saw an opportunity. Now they're good players.
Yeah.
Dylan Edwards is a great player. He's probably one of the higher recruited guys outside of Travis Hunter that Dion's brought in. He's going to be a good player. Right? There's no doubt that they're going to be a good player. It's just the other supporting team as a whole is the question when it comes to Colorado for this year. Yeah. Right? And I feel like that the hype for this year was out of control. As soon as they beat TCU, there was Colorado people talking they're going to beat Oregon. They were going to go on beat USC, UCLA, USC, and then
national championship, bring it back.
And then all of a sudden there was like 8 teams from the Pac-12 that were ranked. And I'm looking at the schedule going, I don't know, man. Like Cam Rising's going to come back for Utah. You're going to play them the last game of the year. Washington State's ranked. I know they just got beat by Arizona, but Arizona's on a pushover. Washington looks like they're legit. Oregon, your Ducks, blew them out. UCLA, USC. I'm like, God, like that's a brutal schedule.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Colorado screams 7 or 8 wins in a bowl game, and then you build.
I mean, their biggest issue too
next year, and then how are you going to say no to Deion Sanders walking into your house if you're a recruit? To Colorado.
For sure.
Long term, if he stays that long, then this is the perfect building block and perfect season to start as a building block. But the hype was over warranted.
The Stanford loss was brutal, though. They should have won that game, and Colorado. 100%. And Colorado right now is ranked outside the top 30 in recruiting for next year. It's not a good start for next year's recruiting class. So,
but there's still.
I think it definitely reflects what you said with Deion being possibly. I think it's the best DB to ever play, but that's where they're deepest in terms of Division I talent. Like you said, they got Cooper, McLean, Hunter, and Shiloh. Those are the only 4 guys that were recruited high in any regards. Division I. You know what I mean? Like so. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the Cormani situation because I just thought they were going to be locked down, but there's just not a situation. I don't think you need him as much. I don't think you need Travis as much on offense.
I think Travis definitely solidifies the back half of that defense for sure. I mean, that's just how good Hunter is as a player, but he's definitely way more dynamic as a wide receiver. I think we're seeing that. Playing both ways the way that he's playing both ways, he's more dynamic as a wide receiver than he is a defender. And again, Colorado's going to turn this around. I don't know about 7 wins. I don't even know if they're going to get to 6 now with Stanford loss. They might. It's very close.
That was brutal.
It's still a team that I think Deion can rally around, and they upset 1 or 2 teams in the Pac-12.
It's possible. I think Arizona is definitely a possibility,
especially as teams start to fall off in the Pac-12, because there's not going to be 8 teams in the Pac-12 fighting for 4 spots in the college football playoff.
No,
at the end of the day.
no.
They're all going to beat up on each other, and it's going to come down to one team that wins the Pac-12 and maybe two, especially
for
now
sure.
USC losing.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
I mean, again, it goes back to just Washington State's a possibility now. They looked pretty lethargic against Arizona, so that's a possibility for them to get an upset there. But I love Cam Ward and I love that Washington State team. Arizona's definitely still a possibility. Beating Arizona State was big, because if they had lost Arizona State, they may not have gotten to that 6 wins. So it's still possible. It's within the realm. I mean, they got 4 wins, so it's still within
All
the
they
realm.
need is 2.
They only need 2 more out of the way that goes down from here on out. So, yeah. So we just turned into a college football talk show. Hey, congratulations! Awesome. It's football. I could talk football all night. Nobody has anything else. We did the final subject and turned into Colorado. Look at that. So, yeah. I think that's it. So that's it for here tonight. The goal line stand. Until next week, guys. Thank you.
Make sure you like, subscribe, all that other kind of stuff.
Justin, you never let me
Hey,
down.
I
with
got
that.
you.
I love it.
I always
you never
got
let me
you.
down with it. I am so bad with that. I gotta work on that.
Oh, wait, yeah. Send questions too. Send us questions to answer. It's great when you're doing it live, but send us questions over on the comment section, all these videos, all this other kind of stuff. At some point, if we get enough of them, we'll do a Q&A session.
Exactly. There we go. There it is. Justin's got it.
Hey,
Look at that.
Hey. Full-time football player, part-time content creator.
Look at
got
that.
You guys.
Love
all
it.
right. With that being said, see you.
A man with it all.
Game changer.